President has just, in fact, put out a tweet welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He says on X, and I'm going to read that out, President Biden, today I'll welcome the Prime Ministers Albanese, Modi and Kishida to my home, Delaware. These leaders aren't just essential to ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific. They're friends of mine and friends of our nation. I look forward to all we'll accomplish in this summit ahead, is what U.S. President Joseph Biden has said. Rohit, essentially they're setting the tone that these aren't just, people that we do business with. These aren't just heads of countries that we interact with to get things done. They're also friends of mine. Speaking volumes of also the fact, and interesting, I would say, that this is a Prime Minister who shares a great relationship with Joe Biden, as he does with former President Donald Trump, doesn't he?
He does. And look, President Joe Biden has publicly said
yes, Rohit, once again, be with us. We're rolling coverage, and these are pictures of the Prime Minister. Like Rohit told us, meeting with members of the Indian diaspora, have been patiently waiting for the Prime Minister, shaking hands with members of the diaspora here who are in Delaware and were waiting keenly to interact with the Prime Minister. Take a look at those pictures coming in. I'm going to, in fact, go back to Gaurav for more on that as well. As expected, warm interaction of the Prime Minister with members, Gaurav, of the diaspora there.
Oh, the diaspora, as Rohit was very rightly telling us, they're so excited about Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming to the United States or whatever country he goes to. I've covered his visits to Ukraine. I've covered his visits to Russia, to the United Kingdom, to France, and wherever he goes, the diaspora are there in numbers to greet him. They say that in the eyes of their friends and neighbors and where they work, in the world at large, India's stature is growing. India's stature as a world power, especially now when India is making that effort that the entire world is seeing. Can India do something to bring peace between Russia and Ukraine? It's a long shot. India is not a European country. India is perhaps the only country in the world with direct access both to President Putin and President Zelensky, respected by both and trusted by both sides. So the only country in the world, that's not China, that's not Brazil, though President Putin has talked about China being Russia's friend. He's talked about Brazil being Russia's friend. But would President Zelensky say the same? President Zelensky calls India a friend, even though he was very upset when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Moscow, and then there was an attack on that hospital, which I reported from subsequently in Ukraine. The fact remains, India and Indian diaspora, because you have a large number of Indians in Russia, you have a large number of Indians in Ukraine. They speak the language, they live in that country, they've done a lot for those countries. So that just goes on to show the diaspora is that human bridge between India and those countries. And that is why they get really excited when Prime Minister goes there and interacts with them.
Well, absolutely. Gaurav, you rightly pointed out that this is a unique case, for a country like Ukraine and Russia to both, in fact, trust Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the world really looking at the role that India, under the leadership of the Prime Minister and his personal equations with both of these leaders, can play in then ensuring truce. When is there going to be truce? I'm being told that Ambassador Rajiv Dogra is also, in fact, joining us this evening. Ambassador Dogra, thank you for your time. I want to begin by asking you, how do you look at this visit from the point of view of deliverables for India, as far as first, of course, the Quad later, but the bilateral today with President Joe Biden is concerned?
Well, I'm glad you used the word deliverables, especially with regard to the meeting with Biden, because there's a lot that India has to be concerned about recent actions in America. For example, the Padun case. That's not what friends should be doing. And obviously, there's a role of establishment in it. So I guess in the bilaterals, this will figure. Second, there are other issues also, but let me just flag this particular one, because it is of major concern. The second, as far as Quad is concerned, please remember, in every previous meeting, China has been the dragon in the room. And for India, it is going to be a very delicate balancing act because it would not want to upset China beyond a point or unnecessarily. And here, President Biden's readout, the message he's put out before the Quad meeting, clearly mentions Indo-Pacific. And that's a hint towards China. So naturally, it will require a lot of careful messaging out of the Quad meeting on India's part, so that unnecessary signals do not go out to a country which is our closest neighbor and with which we have at best a fractious relationship. Coming to the meeting or the address by the Prime Minister to the Indian community, I think that is certainly a positive, and that is unambiguously, unadulterated, warm occasion for the community and also for the Prime Minister to be among Indian people who are doing so well, not just in America but worldwide, but in America especially. As far as the summit of the future is concerned, in fact, that may not live up to the expectations that it should normally do, because the world is fractured today. The world is divided into groups, one led by China and Russia, the other by America and its allies. The world is at war in many places. Israel, Hamas, expanded to Lebanon, the Russia-Ukraine war. And the third part, world is also at an economic crisis because all is not well with the world. All is not well with its supply side assurances. All is not well with its financial architecture in the coming days and coming months and years, because there are worrying signs there. So you can only be generous with the global south if the developed world, which has the money to spare, can be generous with it. So at best, I expect there would be polite noises about climate change, about agriculture, stability, food security, and health. But in concrete terms, I do not think there would be much progress because there's not money to spare.
Okay. All right. Be with us, Rajiv Dogra. I'm just going to come back to you in a moment from now. Geeta, if you heard Ambassador Dogra, would you agree that there are sticky issues, there are sticky points that could just be coming up in this meeting? And if yes, apart from Panun, what else? What are the other issues that need to be ironed out between these two countries?
Well, as of now, I couldn't clearly hear what Ambassador Dogra had said, Sneha,
right.
But as of now, when it comes to the sticky and the niggling areas, of course, there are many issues that need to be ironed out that have to do with trade. But this is not a presidency where you can talk about conversations and how to take it forward, because this almost is a lame duck presidency for President Biden. So the Indian side is going to discuss things that have already been discussed, a review of the important decisions that have already been taken and how to take them forward. Like Gaurav was saying, there's a lot of conversation on defense and technology transfer and cooperation. There is going to be conversation on that front. But when it comes to the sticklers over here, it is the murder for hire charges case, wherein we've heard the White House during the press conference, State Department during its press conference talk about how they are looking at accountability, that the high-level committee that was formed here in India to inquire about what really happened, what really transpired, is something that they would be seeking a response on. And this also comes at a very critical juncture. It comes at a time when a U.S. court has summoned none other than the National Security Advisor, or the letter to the Indian administration had gone for National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, former chief, who was the chief of the Research and Analysis Wing not so long ago, Samant Goel, the two players who, according to their own reports and the very, very detailed chat that has now been made public, so they are also part of that entire summons. So this meeting comes at a time when there are summons from a court, and there is enough pressure on Washington DC, that's the Biden administration, on ensuring that there is some response from India. So that certainly is going to be a very important area during the bilateral conversations. In all probability, this also would be a likely topic that could come up between the two sides. India has made it very clear that, one, India does not carry out operations on foreign soil, the manner in which India has been accused of. And secondly, the summons itself, when it comes to the summons, India has put out a very strong official position, which is by the Foreign Secretary of India, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, during his press briefing for the Prime Minister's visit, where he said that this entire summon and the entire case itself is unwarranted and unsubstantiated. So that's the position India holds, and India will continue to maintain that. But yes, there is a high-level committee that was formed to look into this entire case and the matter. And that's something that could come up during discussions as to where has the inquiry really led to, and where does it stand at this point in time.
That's right. I'm going to, in fact, also put that question to Gaurav. And what does he think would be the outcomes of the bilateral as far as this stock-taking exercise, Gaurav, is concerned? Like Geeta was telling us that is bound to happen, obviously. But what next? Taking this relationship at another level, given that they've chosen to have a bilateral at the sidelines of the Quad Summit. What do you think is really going to be on top of the agenda as far as the bilaterals are concerned?
So it's a process that's constantly on, and India engages with all sides. Do keep one thing in mind, that India has bipartisan support in the United States of America, because both, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, they understand India's importance, from their pivot to Asia to pivot to India to Asia Pacific becoming Indo-Pacific. The United States realizes that India is an extremely important country in the world, and not just in the region. And India is playing a much, much bigger role. Though there are elements in the State Department, or there are departments in the United States of America, Ambassador Dogra and Geeta Mohan and Rohit can tell us more about it, who want to keep India's growth and rise under check, which India refuses, to let these niggles impact the relationship. After all, who is Pannu? Pannu is a terrorist. Pannu is a banned entity in India. And if America is truly a friend of India, and it's such a comprehensive strategic partnership, so America has to keep Indian interests in mind, that they should not be shielding a terrorist or a terror supporter or a banned terrorist organization supporter and somebody who encourages secession. Canada did that with Niger, and you've seen what's happening in Canada right now. In this 21st century world, this narrative building that the US State Department or elements in the State Department try to do, it doesn't really work. And niggles like these, or just before an important visit, Pannu going to court in New York, and why only New York, and why New York each time? These are issues, when you go into the details, you figure out there are certain elements who want to finger you as a nation. It does not work in the long run, because India is very clear that we're also a strong country. We are not in an American camp. And do keep another thing in mind, Sneha. India is a part of Quad. India is a part of BRICS. India is also a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the only country that's a very powerful member of so many groupings in the world, which may be at loggerheads, but India plays a very crucial role in all these groupings. In BRICS, India is strong. In SCO, India is very strong. India and Russia together, and also in Quad. And well, many say this multi-alignment or sailing in multiple boats do not work. So far, Indian diplomats, and Ambassador Dogra can tell us much better, Indian diplomats have been able to walk this very fine line, and very effectively. You know that from the issue of oil, when there was so much restriction on India, don't buy oil from Russia, India went ahead and bought that oil, and it benefited not just India, it benefited the developing world. And a lot of that oil is being procured by the same European countries that were finger pointing. So that finger pointing doesn't work in 21st century world, and that's the point India is very effectively sending across.
Okay.